Spoiler alert, Snape kills Dumbledore.
You know, there have been some pretty dumb twists in movies and TV shows in recent years. Palpatine was alive the whole time. Everything was an experiment set up by a pharmaceutical company testing the effects of a drug, and they're evil even though they're making drugs for the benefit of humanity. Charlie Sheen was alive the whole time. I can't keep up with all these stupid twists. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get to a simpler place. Perhaps a zone. A Twilight Zone. This video is about the Twilight Zone. Created by Rod Serling in 1959, The Twilight Zone is a sci-fi fantasy anthology series. Think Black Mirror, but instead of cell phones, it's about rotary phones. Well, no, I'm just kidding. This show is a lot tamer than most nowadays, but it's about so much more than just people in alien costumes. The show actually explores themes of xenophobia, the Cold War, fear of the unknown, death, man's quest for knowledge, and rotary phones. I'm not even kidding about that one. There's literally an episode where a kid hears his grandmother's voice through a toy phone. The show can get pretty creepy sometimes, but that's what makes it so noteworthy. The show stands out because Rod Serling had the balls to make something exposing the ugly side of humanity, and managed to capture it perfectly with his sophisticated style of writing. Of course, a lot of episodes were adapted from stories from various sci-fi magazines, and it was thanks to Serling and his team that these concepts received mainstream attention. To this day, various episodes of The Twilight Zone have stuck with people in the best way possible, and it remains a timeless classic that's widely regarded as one of the greatest of all time. Grab a cushion, because I feel a butt coming. You see, another aspect of various episodes of The Twilight Zone that remains famous to its older fans is its twist endings that took the concept of the show's episodes and flipped them on their heads. A lot of them varied in quality, but there was always something about an episode of the show that brought an audience along the path, only to push them off of it at the very last second. Back in the late 50s, early 60s, the United States were in the midst of the Cold War. And believe me, I'm going somewhere with this, okay? This isn't like one of those turning red sucked because it didn't mention 9/11 kind of moments. You see, the US was under constant threat and fear that they were under the attack of the Russian government. Not much has changed, evidently. But back in the day, we tended to see things in terms of politics and real-world issues in terms of black and white. Just like the show. As a result, people were genuinely surprised by a lot of the twists that the Twilight Zone had to offer. Things are a little bit more complicated. With the way that our world has changed over the decades, people tend to look more in shades of gray, if that makes sense. Plus, as a result of the success of the show's groundbreaking endings, this has inspired a plethora of writers over the years to incorporate twists into their works. Nowadays, some twist endings have sort of become notorious for completely failing to make any sort of point and to exist just because. As a society, we're a lot wiser to twists, and we can see them coming a mile away. I want to take this time to apologize because the point of this video is not necessarily to determine if the content of the show has aged poorly over time. Well, I guess it kind of is, but we'll circle back to that later. What I really wanted to find out with this video is if the Twilight Zone has aged well in terms of its twist endings, and if a modern audience could predict a lot of them. So I decided to conduct a little bit of an experiment. I decided to show 3 random episodes to 3 of my friends, each of them with a varying interest in film and television, and I told them to find out the twist of the episodes before they were over. Before we begin though, I gotta do something really cool. Yeah, it really wasn't that cool, was it? So before we get into anything, I should tell you all the 3 episodes I ended up going with. Spoilers for these 3 episodes, obviously. The first episode was Season 1, Episode 15, I Shot an Arrow into the Air. In this episode, a group of astronauts journey to what they think is an asteroid, but as it turns out, they were actually on Earth the whole time. What a wacky misunderstanding! Or at least it would have been if one of the astronauts didn't kill his crewmates to survive. Idiot. I picked this one because I watched it by myself a while ago and easily guessed the twist of it. Twist-wise, it's pretty similar to another Rod Serling classic, Planet of the Apes, so maybe that's why I figured it out as easily as I did. Either way, I was banking on a lot of people figuring this one out and threw it in as an easy opener. The second episode I picked was Season 2, Episode 6, Eye of the Beholder. In this one, a young woman with a physical deformity is undergoing surgery to change her face into that of a beautiful woman, but it turns out that she was actually beautiful and everybody else is ugly. In this episode, everyone's face is concealed in darkness until the big reveal, which sounds like a pretty obvious setup for a twist like that. However, Season 2 is where Rod Serling himself began to make physical appearances in order to introduce the premise of the episode. So I was hoping that having him appear in this episode would hopefully throw people off from the twist. Finally, I picked Season 5, Episode 26, The Masks. I really just skipped Seasons 3 and 4 completely, but it's fine. This episode is about an old man who, on his last day on Earth, coincidentally on Mardi Gras, invites his ungrateful and horrendous family to his estate and has them wear masks. When midnight strikes and the old man dies, the family takes on the appearances of their masks and takes on the appearance of who they truly are underneath. I went with this episode because I figured I should have an episode from a later season to help balance the scales. Plus, I was genuinely taken aback by the twist when I first saw it, so I wasn't expecting a whole lot of people to guess it. Now that we got the episodes established, let's introduce our first subject. First up was Greg, who really doesn't watch a whole lot of television, especially old shows. I began to show him I Shot an Arrow into the Air. After watching the astronauts try to get accustomed to the environment on the apparent asteroid, I asked him what he thought the twist of the episode was going to be.
Do you have any guesses on what the twist is so far?
Best thing that I could say right now is that it's going to be the Twilight Zone is what they're going to be in right now. I'm going to say that that guy that's sick is going to, mutate into some monster or anything.
The episode trekked on with Greg still believing that it was going to go in a certain direction. After the character Corey killed his fellow crewmates and began to climb up a hill, Greg changed his answer.
Maybe there's a whole pond of water up on the hill or something, and he was just killing people for no reason.
Which honestly, that probably would have been a pretty twisted ending if not for the real ending which he eventually saw.
Oh. I was way off, huh?
Yeah.
So Greg missed the ending to the first episode, but he still had 2 more episodes to redeem himself. Next I showed him Eye of the Beholder, and despite the fact that he was initially confused at Rod Serling's face appearing, he got the twist to this one pretty quickly around the 6-minute mark.
I'm gonna say that she's gonna be, beautiful when they take the bandages off. I'm gonna say that's the twist, and everybody else, has an ugly face or something like that. Alright, I got the first half right. I don't know if everybody else is gonna be ugly, but yeah, they're not ugly, they're just...
yeah, they're even more attractive.
Greg was 1-1 for the twists, and then came time for the tiebreaker with The Masks. Now with The Masks, there really aren't that many hints of where it's going until halfway through the episode, and ignoring that, the rest of the episode is a slow build, focusing a lot on the characters and their interactions. So I didn't expect Greg to really get this one.
Oh, does their face change to the mask afterward? Is that what the twist is?
Never mind. With that episode out of the way, Greg ultimately got 2 twists out of the 3 episodes right. I didn't know what this said about the show, that someone who doesn't regularly watch TV got 2 out of the 3 twists correct. But I guess we won't know what the overall results are until we look at the other subjects and how they did. Up next was my friend Obbs, who watches a little bit of television here and there. I also realized the irony of them coming to film right after a pride parade and wearing a color shirt for this black and white video. Oops. Anyways, upon beginning to watch I Shot an Arrow into the Air, Obbs watched about the first 7 minutes of the episode when they quickly figured out the episode's twist.
Signs of the sun, I mean.
Yes, I noticed. It's hardly any different than we knew it on Earth.
Whatever asteroid we've landed on is in the same orbit as the Earth.
What?
Are they just on Earth?
Huh?
Are they just on Earth? In a desert somewhere?
I don't know.
So they figured it out pretty early on and spent the rest of the time making fun of how the astronauts drank water.
Again, learn how to drink water. Dude, you are so bad at it. Dude, you're wasting the water you think you don't have.
But I think that was warranted considering that they got it.
That's right.
You got it.
Next up was Eye of the Beholder, and for this one, Hobbs was really into the episode. I saw them kind of tear up at multiple parts of the episode in response to what the main character, Ms. Tyler, was saying about her ugly face.
The state is not God. It hasn't the right to penalize somebody for an accident of birth. It hasn't the right to make ugliness a crime.
I thought that the episode would get them as a result until they eventually stated what they thought was going to happen.
Because we haven't really seen anyone else's faces at all.
No.
So could she actually be really pretty and everyone else is just ugly as
I mean, the way that you phrase that is like...
Not to be like that, but like, could she be the one who's like attractive and everybody else is not? Maybe.
However, as a way of reiterating themes of isolating others different from themselves, Eye of the Beholder takes place in a somewhat dystopian Earth. The world of this episode is run by a fascist government that makes people conform to certain ideologies in order to be content. I presume that this idea was also included in the episode as a way of throwing off the audience to the initial twist. And it worked, to a certain extent.
Oh.
Our leader. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
It's a race thing.
I shall talk to you.
Oh, she was just beautiful. Okay.
So to redeem themselves, Obbs then watched The Masks, or as I like to call it, the roast of the 1%.
You've been at death's door so often, it's a wonder you haven't worn a hole in the mat.
This man's funny. I like it.
And even though Obbs was laughing at the evil family being roasted, they still believed that the episode was going a certain way.
Let me see the face. Let me see the face. The face is the mask. The face is the mask. Let me see. Let me see. Yeah! You're a bitch.
So despite them changing their mind on the second episode's twist, they still got a majority of them correct. And finally for our test subjects is Sean, who has seen a lot of film and television. He also thinks that the Star Wars prequels are good.
Prequel trilogy is good. It is aged like fine wine. Sure, aspects of it
We'll talk
are
about that
great.
later. We'll talk about that later.
So, I didn't expect him to get a lot of the twists because they might be a bit too smart for him, but we'll see in a sec. Up first was I Shot an Arrow into the Air, where in the first 5 minutes, Sean jumped to the conclusion of it being possibly about
Time travel.
Is that really what you... Already? You thinking that?
I don't know, I'm thinking about space dilation because we just watched Planet of the Apes not so long ago. Probably not. It's probably something else. She's gonna land on a planet that is made of spaghetti. That sounds like a dream.
The twist is they're all Italian.
The truth is, a sign or a symbol or something.
He was writing Mamma Mia, that's a spicy meatball.
But after changing his mind, Sean ended up getting it right.
He's gonna be like in Florida or something. Like not Florida, but like... I wonder if he's actually like on Earth now. And then they crashed in a national park.
Well, you got it.
But they were in the middle of the desert the whole time?
Yeah.
Next, I attempted to show him Eye of the Beholder, but here's a twist I didn't see coming.
Alright,
Wait.
What?
Eye of the Beholder. Is this the one where she's in a hospital bed? And she's actually really pretty and everyone's pig noses.
Okay, well, that's the end of that one.
Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay, I have seen that one.
Damn it! Son of a bitch, dude!
Sean had already seen the episode. I guess it was inevitable something like this would happen. I mean, the show is famous enough for a lot of people to know the twists of it through osmosis. However, Sean had never told me that he saw the episode, so, yeah, this is all his fault.
You're a bitch.
I asked him if he had anticipated that ending when he saw it for the first time, with him telling me that he did like it, but he ended up getting it. So, for the sake of moving along, we'll count this as he got it regardless. So then we just had The Masks to watch.
Your father is extremely ill.
He's down with the sickness.
Hey.
So with this one, Sean slowly got the twist of it by hearing dialogue related to the mask's effects at midnight, and he came to the idea that the masks may bring the father back to life in some way.
Oh, he said midnight specifically. So he's got something planned for all of them individually, midnight, and so he's got to live until something happens at midnight magically that's gonna with them in some way. She'll lose her beauty, maybe, just the mirror.
I don't know. She'll die. He's just like, I couldn't figure out anything for you, so gun. I wonder if it's like maybe the masks giving them all like rejuvenates him by taking their life force.
But eventually, as the episode went along, he got it down.
The masks are their real faces, and those are their real faces. Maybe. She doesn't look any different.
Yeah, I was waiting for you to say that.
So we had one person who guessed 2 out of the 3 correctly. We had one person who guessed all 3 correctly, or at least they would have if they didn't change their mind on one of the answers. Sorry, Obs. And then we had one person who watched 2 out of the 3 episodes, not as planned originally, but they still got both of them right. I think we can infer from this info that when people watch The Twilight Zone, they either tend to get the idea over time of how the twists work in order to predict them, or they get the twists because they're presented in a very easy to understand way. Either way you look at it, it would seem that regardless of the overall knowledge of the person watching the episodes, that when asked to guess the twists of The Twilight Zone, it would seem that the show is predictable in certain aspects by today's standards. Now, some of you are probably thinking to yourselves right now, I can't believe that this guy doesn't like the Star Wars prequels. I mean, what an asshole! And the rest of you are probably thinking to yourselves, Brian, you told people to find out what the twists of these episodes were. It's only logical that they would find out what they were because you gave them that side objective. And you're absolutely right. I kind of set myself up for failure by telling these guys to find out what the twists of the episodes were. So I decided to remedy that by holding this experiment one more time. Only this time I got 3 entirely new subjects and I didn't tell them to find out what the twists of the episodes were. I merely told them this time to watch the show and give their overall impressions on it. Kind of like a Fine Brothers video if it had like a point. So without further ado, let's get into this. First up was my friend Leah, who, when watching the first episode of I Shot an Arrow into the Air, had a very different idea of where it was going.
So do you have thoughts on where this is going so far?
Maybe something about cannibalism.
Which is fair, since going into it, she had an expectation of what kind of show it actually was. I also think this ties back into Leah's fascination with surreal entertainment, making her think that this would be all kinds of messed up. I mean, it is in some episodes, but this episode is kind of tame compared to other ones, so regardless, Leah ended up getting this one wrong.
That's funny. So my expectations were more of something like mystical, but now I'm kind of getting it. It's more like realistic.
Okay.
Next up, I had her watch Eye of the Beholder, which I noticed while watching that the episode was a lot more her vibe with the way everything was shot. I fully anticipating this throwing her off, but she ended up getting this one right.
So did you think it was going there?
Yeah, I caught on.
You kind of figured that was going to happen?
Yeah.
Finally, we had the masks, which confused her in one certain spot because of the Sun character's prior obsession with torturing animals.
Oh, perhaps not the same degree of excitement that you get from torturing small animals as I've seen you do in the past.
Interesting.
Lay off, grandfather. Besides, that was a long
Very
time
interesting
ago.
character trait.
I think they will become what the masks are.
Next up was my friend Matt, who plays a lot more video games than watches TV, but he's seen a lot of Family Guy, so he knows what the Twilight Zone is. I don't get the correlation, but hey, whatever works to inform you. When I ended up showing Matt I Shot an Arrow into the Air, I think at this point in the night I was starting to kind of get angry that people kept getting the twists for these episodes. So while Matt was watching it, I started to try to throw him off the path.
Look, they're on an asteroid.
An asteroid.
Yeah, look, Arizona. An asteroid.
Well, that's the problem with these old shows. They obviously gotta be like, you know.
Yeah, I know
it's an asteroid, guys.
Although I will say, it does this wonders, actually, though. The fact that it's black and white does give, like, the, look of space, at least.
Yeah. There's no way of knowing if there's, a blue sky or not.
Yeah, exactly.
Eventually, Matt saw the twist and was actually caught off guard.
They were not on an asteroid.
Am I an asshole for messing with the subject on this? Probably. Not that it matters, because as soon as he started to watch Eye of the Beholder, he quickly figured it out within the first 5 minutes.
Oh, the twist gonna be she has a normal face and everyone else has the messed up ones? Or like what's messed up in our view? Where are their faces? Where are their faces? Yes! They're freaks!
Then with The Masks, Matt eventually caught on about the idea that the show had to have had twists of some kind in it.
So you think this episode's also gonna have a plot twist?
I thought that was kind of the theme for Twilight Zone. Because Black Mirror, if that was more like about like condition of the world or like about something aspect that could be like, hey, imagine if this went further, but in a more like messed up way.
Yeah.
Twilight Zone was more just like, hey, what if something was like this? And then that was it. It's just what if something was like this?
Mm-hmm.
Matt eventually got it right before the episode came to an end.
Let me guess. It's on their faces now. The mask became the real face. Yes!
My last subject, or subjects, were my friends Annie and Maggie from Filmish.
Did we do good?
Yeah, okay.
I felt bad that I manipulated Matt during his viewings, so for these two, I'm gonna just let them speak for the episodes themselves.
Oh, is it in black and white?
Yeah, it is.
It's old. The whole time?
You think that there's gonna be a part where they all explore each other's bodies?
How much water is there? 5-gallon can, what we have on us. Then why waste it?
Yeah, no, I'm on his side.
Let him die. I'm tired of pretending I'm not for the death penalty.
I've always said that.
They haven't landed on an asteroid.
I was gonna say, I think they're actually just on Earth. I think that's gonna be the plot twist. I think they're making it look like he killed Pearson, but he didn't, and something else did. Or
No.
the Colonel's actually the one that's gonna go crazy.
No, I don't think they're
I
that
still
creative.
think and hope that there's a town, like, right close by.
That would be funny.
Stop.
I need a foot can. I don't know. You're doing like multiple things.
We got that. We got you saying that.
Oh, we need a fucking.
No, that's good. You got your.
Keep digging.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, we knew it. They're in Nevada.
Unfortunately, not a town though.
But like, what if it was actually a prank? And they were like,
NASA comes out, and also Ashton Kutcher, and they're like, "You got punked," and he's like, "Oh, thank God I didn't kill them." And they're like, "No, those were real bullets. You did actually kill them."
What happened? Is she like, what?
I think she probably was like born with a deformity or something.
And
Yeah, she's like born ugly.
You ain't in prison, don't you, Doctor? You're talking about a ghetto, aren't you? A ghetto designed for freaks.
Miss Tyler.
That's what I called my theater department in college. We're a ghetto of freaks.
They're not showing anybody's face, and I think there's a like.
I don't know why you
I
would
feel
think
like
that.
the thing is gonna be like she's actually normal looking, and everybody else looks bad.
How do you think they kiss? You think they've explored each other's bodies?
Just him having the cigarette. It looks really
Do
funny.
you think they have lungs?
I'm watching the camera, watching you guys watching the.
So you're watching that?
Yes. All right. Okay.
He has to pretend like he doesn't like it.
I don't have a foot camera.
Yeah, I was gonna say that.
Is it? I feel like it's gonna get like stuck to their faces.
No, one of them was a skull.
Yes, but it's gonna like get stuck to their faces. The one who's like, I don't know, a glutton or something will have the pig one and he'll turn into a pig. It's probably something like that.
I'll turn to the guy from the previous episode.
Yeah.
The people from the previous episode.
Yeah, they actually probably just reused the latex
Yeah.
to make the same mask. You look good, Dad.
Like, what was that?
So yeah, Annie and Maggie pretty much got all the twists correct. So let's recount our experiment here. In our first block, we had one person who guessed about 2 out of the 3 correctly. We had someone who guessed all 3 correctly. Hey guys, Post Brian here. It was actually 2, not 3. Way to go, idiot. We had someone who watched, just 2, but they still got them both correct. and they were all told to find out what the twist of the episodes were. But when not told to find a twist, we had very same results from the people watching. So what does that tell us overall about this show? Man, I don't know. Look guys, I'll be honest. One of the main reasons why I wanted to do this video is because I used to watch The Twilight Zone all the time with my dad. And I realized recently that a lot of the shows that I used to watch as a kid didn't all pass the test of time. So that's why I wanted to focus on The Twilight Zone. I wanted to see if it were possible for the show to surprise people like it did for me when I first watched it. I wanted to see if the show had aged well by showing people episodes of it, and make myself feel better by having them be caught off guard by the twists of them. I'm a bit of a sad asshole like that. But when I was watching the show with various people for this video, I noticed that a lot of them were actually really getting into them.
I would keep watching it. It seems like it has some really good themes in each episode that teach you a lot.
I really like the commentary and the dialogue. It's kind of poetic in a way. I'm sure it was really unique for its time and has inspired a lot of modern day films and TV.
I really like shows from this era. I grew up watching them with my grandparents, so I would love to just kind of get more connected to shows from the time.
It holds up in the same way that I see people like hold up Star Trek. I get why why it lasts as long as it has, and I get why remaking it. And I get why remaking it would be actually almost difficult.
I think I'd give the show 7 women in full glam with bandages covering their whole head out of 10. 7 canteens of water out of 10.
Even though Sean knew the twist of Eye of the Beholder, we ended up watching the episode anyway, and he had a great time watching it for its technical aspects alone.
I do like, in this, like the blocking and the camera work, and how they do everything. It's done in a way that it's not distracting, then it works for the plot of the show.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's great timing to do that. Like the person starts to turn and you zoom in on something else and then zoom out when they turn back. It's done in a very good, practical way.
A lot of the people were discussing the themes of the episodes in great detail, and while some of them didn't work with all of them, they were at least still discussing them. I take it that this ultimately means that regardless of if they know the twists ahead of time, the Twilight Zone holds up pretty well. I think a lot of people nowadays tend to overanalyze media when it comes to the kinds of twists and turns that are in them. Some writers believe that the act of having a twist is what makes something good in the first place. Sure, having a twist in a piece of media is effective in keeping the audience on their toes, but does it still matter if the themes and messages of the content aren't good? I think we learned today that as long as something holds your attention and has a story worth telling, then it's fine if it can be a tad predictable in some areas. Hell, in the instances we've observed, there's a certain satisfaction out of getting some of them right. Does the Twilight Zone hold up in terms of its twists? For the most part, not really. Does it hold up as a great show with great themes and presentation that make it an important part of the history of media? Hell yes. So, if you haven't seen the show yet, I would highly recommend watching the following episodes on the screen. These ones are my personal favorites, and I think anybody can watch these and enjoy them. Some of them have twists, some of them don't. But if there's anything that we learned today, that really doesn't matter. Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the video. I would have ended it by doing a Rod Serling impression, but I don't own a fancy suit like he does, and my mom won't let me smoke in her house. See you all in another 3 months. Alright, I'm rolling, so you guys are good whenever.
I'm rolling too. Oh, not this.